off we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome
Hello.
to our day 2 Halloween chat with today Marco Tessiore. Hello.
Hello. Happy Halloween to you and everybody.
Halloween. Ah, we're talking about spooks, entities, ghosts, however people want to name them, and spaces, places. Maybe I'm gonna start with asking you, like, how has that been like for you? Like, is that something you are busy with a lot or not so much?
It's so interesting. And that's also like how this conversation starts with you, because we were talking about spaces and I have a certain connection with spaces. Generally, not just where I am, but like I kind of got perception of energies. And so I feel like connected to spaces. And this has been kind of very interesting, and more I'm actually using just like access consciousness tools. I allow myself to perceive and to know more. And then just chatting with you the other day, you asked me, this live want to be done there? Are there entities? And I was like, wow, so interesting how if we talk about entities, we don't choose to get pragmatic a lot of time, unless people like you and facilitators and people that use the tools choose to be pragmatic. And when they do, wow, what's happening? And I'm sorry, I'm being super straight about it, but it's just kind of like and very excited to have this conversation with you. So thank you.
Yeah, and I love because, like, sometimes people will be like, but how do I know there is entities? And like, do I want to know? But it's basically like, how do you know? You ask a question. Hello, is there anyone here? Like you would do in a house, right?
Totally. In a house or in any space. I also have a story time for this. Would you like to hear a story?
Yes,
I never talk about this story, but yeah, today feels like, ooh,
then
is the
for
time
sure.
maybe. I was in Thailand, in Bangkok. I was in a pretty beautiful hotel lobby, and suddenly I got pulled by something, like to just walk outside. It's the first day I'm there. I have no idea. The clients just put me there and will pick me up in the afternoon. And so I cross the street, and there is something that I would say is a park, but is a little different. And in the middle of the park, I find out there is a cemetery, and it's just not official cemetery. It seems to be a Chinese cemetery. And while I'm walking around the tombs, I really feel pulled by a stone of a graveyard. Sorry, a stone of a tomb that is like it felt in the ground. It's almost like in pieces, and I felt this urgency of like putting it together back and putting
Wow,
it up. And I just did it. Like it's
oh, you
I'm
did
just
it.
I'm just this kind of like white guy in Thailand walking around the Chinese cemetery in a park, putting together a piece of statues. Like who doesn't, Like
I love it.
what tourists do in Thailand, if not. And when I did it, and they were like this kind of like two little statue of dragons at the top of this stone. After that, I look and I kept know I was watched in some point, or there was some other people, some other presence around me. And when I did it, then I look around and I really perceive a presence of an old lady bowing at me with a
Wow.
smile. And I have shivers in my body when I tell this. And I back to the hotel, and I was the more interesting part. All this happening like at 11 in the morning, like full sunny day, you know. And the more interesting aspect of this that kind of start to make me look at like what is when we talk about connection with spaces is that I was extremely light and happy.
I love this also. Like, sometimes people are like, oh, I just want to clear entities, or why would I do it? Why would I spend my time for it? And then with you actually sharing this story, how you, after just doing something that you're like, why am I doing this? Like, okay, I'm just doing this, like how much gratitude there was from this like one or maybe more spirits for something that meant something to them. And maybe, like, if we would just look in this reality, it's maybe like it doesn't have to do anything with your life or with what you're doing, but the willingness to, like, it's like almost like helping an old lady to pass the street. Like, why would we not? Just the kindness and the caring of facilitating energies and entities that sometimes still like require things, or maybe they're stuck, but maybe they're also fine with being there and they have their life without disturbing anyone. But then, like, how often do we as humans like kind of disturb them? Because like that will happen on cemeteries. People will just destroy stuff. Why? Because they're like bastards. And then, yeah, wow.
Well, I just love what you say because sometimes it really feels a little bit like it's almost like the relationship we have with elders. They're there, they're having their life, and often they're not in our same time. And still, you can just smile at them. You can just like listen what they have to say, or just like receive that gaze. Like there's not a lot to do, and though they receive it, and it feels like a contribution. It's
Yeah.
so different when you choose to do it. Thank you for saying this because you just like open up, I think, a totally different perspective.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about entities. I think like we have this choice. Like, you don't have to fight entities. Like, also if they're living where you want to live, like how are you going to do that? I had like I'm doing business hours with like a bunch of people, and at a certain point there was this lady asking about every time she would go and sleep on a holiday in a hotel or something, she would sleep so bad. And so we started looking at, okay, what is that? And basically she had the point of view, well, I rented this room, so now it's mine. So like whatever this is around, like fuck off, because I paid my room. And so then we started looking at what else was there. And then we also became aware of like, well, maybe there are some entities that have the point of view, well, excuse me, this is our house. What are you coming to do here? And it was so amazing to have that conversation also for the people in that class, because they realized like, oh my God, it's so self-centered to just like walk in and think you can just like pose your bag and then be like, I don't want to get disturbed by anyone because I booked this room. And maybe there are just other beings that maybe only require you to say like, hey, I'm here, I rented the room, I'm so happy to be here, is it okay that I'm here?
Wow, thank you for this. And I think we're kind of like jumping track at the same time, but let's jump track for a moment. You asked me a question right before this live idea that was great. You asked me, how do I pick the locations where I choose to do classes
Mm-hmm.
and exchange and anything that is related with access and even not.
But maybe
And
also for your shootings, right? Because like you're a photographer, you're like a filmmaker. So how do you choose your locations?
well, thank you.
Do you choose them or do you get chosen?
Well, thank you for the second that you say, because for me locations are very important. Although like a lot of work often get done in studio, it's just easier in some point for light and settings and so. But then like location, I always choose them for, I would say, the energy they have, but also like the narrative they have. They suggest you something. They suggest you a story. They suggest you a mood. They give you hints. Like just right behind me here, there are like these trees, and as soon as I walk into this little park, leaves start to fall from the trees, and I was like, "Wow!" Kind of like, "Thank you." And he's already kind of a story told here because it's a triangular small garden at the side of a hill, and then it just it talks itself. So I think I listen. I would say
I
what
love that.
location have to say to me, and also there are some locations that that when you point a camera to them, they will really contribute to the creation, and some other that are like, no, I'm just pretty, I'm just cool, but it's not the time, or it's not with you, or it's not the creation, and it's
Yeah.
okay.
And that's the same with classes also, right? Because we were looking a bit at what are we going to do, and I was like, oh, why don't we do like a class with with facilitators? Usually we rent like locations and stuff like that, and like I've had it quite a bit of times that actually nobody would show up. I thought, but then it was just like a ghost class, so there would be a lot of ghosts, and basically they would take up all the space, so nobody could sign up because the class was full. One day to a point where I was in France, even in like a beautiful hotel near the station. And after the first morning, I was on stage with like about 20 people in the room, and I had no more words to speak. And I was like, oh, did I like lose my capacity to facilitate? What's going on? What am I going to do? Oh my goodness, those people paid to be here 3 days with me. So I was like, okay, I need to take a break. So I gave everybody a coffee break. I was like, okay, guys, we're going to take a. And so they go and take a coffee break, and I'm on stage, and I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? And then I was like, okay, that's not turn to like, okay, so what is this? And the minute I became aware of like hundreds of ghosts in that class, and I was like, well, no wonder the energy is stuck, because if you would put like 20 people in this room where there's now 20 people and it's quite full. I looked at it and I was like, guys, you need to get class. You need to bring people so we can actually, all of you are welcome. And the minute I actually said that, it was really like, oh, okay, whoops. And the energy. So that taught me like, yep, if stuff, it will always come, just not always as you think it will.
Yes, Dara, I must say, like, your classes are.
They are, right?
Let's bring the buddies. Thank you for saying this, because to me it's so interesting now when we're looking for locations. Well, yeah, for shooting, but also for classes. Oftentimes we are not, and we are not tapping into the tools we actually like. Yeah, we do I don't know, an intro class about this facilitation, but let's not talk about entities, because now or like, yeah, let's go for a bars class. Let's not check the energy, or let's not check like, and it's so interesting. Don't often, I would say, we don't really look at the pragmatic side of this, and this is something that like choosing your classes and choosing your intro. I see you actually use these tools dynamically, and it's such a more fun, I would say. It's like, I mean, it takes the work, obviously. Can you say something more like that, like how you what you're aware when you ask question about what's this?
Yeah, well, it's this story with the castle, where we did like a big class, like I think in June, the SC extravaganza. Andrew and I was like totally like, okay, we need to like build a people. This is an amazing class. What will it take? Like, no, it's like 30 people max. And I was like, what's that? And blah, 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 blah. At a certain point, I was talking with Andrew, and he was like, no, that's what the castle desires. It doesn't want to go over 30. Not make ourselves crazy. Let's honor that. And I was like, wow, this is where like also like houses can have a requirement, and or buildings can have this requirement in like things they want to participate. And I thought that was a very interesting learning moment, because I know a lot of people at the moment, for example, with COVID, we all work from home, and some like some places at home are really willing to support, to have like strange people. I know with my house too, it likes classes here and stuff like that. Also in buildings that are like, nope, not interested. Like, please open me for like just strangers coming in, seminars, those kind of things. I would like to contribute in a very different. And I think the key, what you just said, was like that. Like, what does the building that you're working with require, and are you maybe the first to hear that, and then see what you can contribute to that. So
I can't. You are giving a class right here, right now. Sudara.
well, it starts tomorrow, but we all know how that goes. No,
It started 20 minutes ago. You're welcome. So you got the first part in this live.
Yes, you got the first part in this life. And I hope for the people that are watching that this is a contribution where you can take these tools also and start working with them. But sometimes people ask, like, yeah, with house clearing, what do you do? I know. So, okay, I know how to do this. And of course, you can totally use. And what I love with the intro classes, the specialty classes, is really that we're going to start to open up your capacity to be aware of what you can be aware of, and also start to see like, okay, so how can you receive, communicate, how can you cooperate with all entities, so also with the buildings, and really start to look at. I worked not too long ago huge bio farming farms, and something was not working, like the installations kept breaking down. So at a certain point he asked me, like, can you have a look at that? And it was so interesting to see it was not a problem with the gear. That could be changed through asking questions and looking at, okay, how many entities are there too, and what's their actually hiring them? Are you inviting them? Are they just like hanging around, not knowing what's happening?
Very much. And I must are looking into maybe choosing this introduction. And so introduction are more a kind of deep dive into the topic of the introduction. I know Access have to call them introduction and that is a great manipulation, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah,
because are very amazing. As I really go and as people would know and stay and dive in topics that classes maybe there's not all the time to actually explore.
that's why there is the specialty classes, because sometimes people are do another class. It's really about that. There is a topic, and again, the house clearings.
I
What
just
is
found a
that?
happy face,
I love it.
happy face on the wall. I was like, yeah, okay, cool.
I love it. Yeah, but yeah, I wonder if everybody would be willing. You know, even the wall behind you right now, the wall behind me, like what's going on in the molecular structures of that, and like, you know, how many people have been projecting things often on buildings, on walls, and what if we could start like eliminating that energetically, and how buildings can show up and how entities can start showing up.
Looking forward is tomorrow night.
Yes, at 9 o'clock.
Everybody's welcome. This is people with bodies.
Yes, and they can take, or the people without bodies, you can take people with bodies.
Let's just be very clear and precise.
Yes. So if you have a body, if you're interested in knowing more about entity work, maybe also specialized, if you want to like monetize some of housing and stuff like that, come and
So
play.
also if you have a house.
If you have a house, or if you don't have a house and you want to,
if you have a space and you want to.
Yeah, if you have land, if you want to have land, if you have a business that has to do with that, if you have clients
If
that
you're alive.
actually, if you're alive, if you're like, no, if you're alive, you need a body.
Oh, right. Shit. Okay.
Marco, is there anything else you'd like to like loosen into the world about this?
Well, I can just say that like I'm very excited actually because we call it, I think, in like a lot of people have these connections, abilities with places, and even choosing, to sit next to the door or something like that. And it's something that even like in Asian cultures, it's very present. So we are all aware about energies in spaces. I think this is a very interesting take, and it's a set of tools. And I'm really just looking forward to the class and to know what you know and to know what you can invite us to know. So yeah, I'm excited.
Me too. Chat for taking time while you're on the road, and for all of you.
I'm actually location scouting for classes.
Well, who's there to support you and to beautiful spots
and to smile to me.
Oh yes.
Thank you for this, and I think we will for everybody tomorrow night, 9 a.m., 9 p.m.
No, 9 p.m. And thank you for joining this live. Also, if you'd like more information also about have a watch on talktotheentities.com, or you can go to our website and sign up for the call. And also, of course, we have the I Love Ghosts shirts, which you can find at iloveghost.com. So what else is possible with ghosts.
They're really cool. They're really stylish.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
See you soon in the class.
Yeah.